So as I went on my audiophile journey, I had the headphones, had the amp, had the DAC, so I needed to feed it some good quality music. And since I don't have this huge database of FLAC files or CD rips, I decided I had to get a good quality streaming service. So I tried all the different streaming services: Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon Music HD. I didn't try Kobu's or Kobas, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, because that's actually quite hard to get abroad. But I kind of wanted to share some of my experiences and which one worked out, which one I chose in the end, and hopefully gives you some insight and, maybe make your own decision if you're building your own hi-fi setup. So how am I judging these apps? Well, there's 3 criteria that I'm using to do this. First is going to be, of course, quality. I want the highest quality audio playback that I can. I have a DAC that can switch between different sample rates. I want to really maximize the most out of it. The next is going to be discoverability. So I want to have discoverability and also a big library. So I want to have a lot of different music I can select from and find all my favorite songs, and I want new songs and new suggestions. The last is going to be the app itself, like the ease of use, the UI, the UX. How does it function? How does it work with playlists? And this is all going to be based on the desktop experience, because most of the time when I'm listening to music these days, I'm working from home and I just have some headphones on and I'm just trying to zone in on my work. I'm actually probably listening to music while I'm editing this video right here. All right, so first let's talk about quality. And I think Spotify has to take the L here because it doesn't offer a lossless tier. I know there's been rumors of a Spotify HQ and screenshots. And I know that there's A/B tests where people really can't tell the difference between Spotify and, a lossless tier player. But, everyone wants the lossless or CD quality. Now next is Tidal. Now Tidal offers lossless, but it also offers a lot of things in MQA, and MQA is a proprietary format. Now I know there's a lot of drama around this format, and there's a whole video which I can link to above. But the thing is because you have to pay for a license and because it requires special hardware, and that hardware has to pay for that license to basically, unfold it or play it at its true MQA quality, it increases the price of things, which really sucks in a hobby that's already quite expensive. Now, Apple Music and Amazon Music HD are pretty much tied. Now, there's some problems with Apple and its quality, and I know Apple has its own lossless format that's out that has its own quirks, and we'll cover that later. So just because it has a few limitations, although there's not any real perceived quality difference, I have to give Amazon Music HD the win in this category. All right, next let's talk about libraries and discoverability. Now in terms of libraries, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon HD all claim to have about the same library size. So, it's pretty much a tie between those. Now Tidal has a slightly smaller one. So this one's not too much of a non-starter. I will say through personal experience, Tidal was missing quite a few tracks that I could find on Apple or Spotify. And although Amazon Music HD, we'll cover it a little bit later when we talk about UI and UX, it will have the same songs, just a little bit harder to find sometimes. Now, where it gets really interesting is discoverability. Now, first up, Amazon Music HD is terrible with discoverability. The playlists are awful. It's not really good at suggesting new songs or, keeping the music going. It's just bad. Next up, a lot better, but still not quite there, is Tidal. Now, Tidal tries to give you artist playlists and has curated stuff, but it really just feeds you back the same music that you've already been listening to. You can't really find too much new stuff there. Now, next up is Apple Music. Now, Apple Music has a really good, your station, and it feeds you both your music and some new music here and there. It's hit or miss. I've found a couple new things that I've liked here and there, but again, it has really good radios. It has a huge library, but I feel like it just doesn't really feed me too much new music, and it feeds me music that's pretty similar to what I'm already listening to. Now, finally, and the one that reigns supreme here is Spotify, and Spotify wins purely because of Discover Weekly. This thing has become so ingrained into my listening experience and my daily listening experience. It's basically this playlist of songs. Maybe you might get one song that's already in your library or already in another playlist, but it's always new and fresh music, and it derives it from what you've been listening to. Now, having said that, you can really easily ruin your Discover Weekly. I listened to a lot of stream beats because I was doing streams and just using my Spotify account, because at the time I was using one of these other services as my main account. And it took weeks to fix my Discover Weekly to actually feed me music I wanted to listen to again. But beside that, there's so many different playlists and moods and feelings. It's so easy to discover music. And on top of that, podcasts are integrated. Now, I know that's also in Apple as well, but podcasts are integrated really well into Spotify, and they're slowly kind of building up the platform for that. But yeah, you just can't beat Spotify for helping you find new music and new stuff to enjoy. Like almost all the new tracks that I found in the last few years, I used to be the big read music blogs and read Pitchfork, but most of the new music that I found so far has come from Spotify or just random TikTok memes floating around. All right, first up, let's talk about UI and UX, and we'll start with, I guess, maybe UX first, or user experience. And I have to say, if you're listening to Apple Music on an Apple device, it's great. If you're on anything else, it's horrible. On Windows, you either have to use the web player, which is extremely sluggish. The beta is sometimes better than the main one, and it logs you out all the time. Or you need to use iTunes, which is still stuck in the early 2000s. It's completely awful. And I'm not even sure if you're getting the lossless from it. And every feature is just broken. And I do gotta say, even Apple Music on a MacBook isn't that great. There's just some funky quirks with the UI where I can't just switch between songs quickly or get to the sections that I want to, and searching's kind of a nightmare. Now, not that far behind is Amazon Music HD, which thankfully is universal between both OSs, but it's just really clunky in its search features and actually trying to put songs in your playlists or sort your songs a certain way. Like a lot of times I like to sort my songs by what have I recently added, because I tend to find a new song and then I play it over and over again and I get burnt out that I want to go to something else. But just finding things in the app and adding things is just really clunky and not that great. Now, both Tidal and Spotify have really snappy interfaces, likely because they're just kind of purely web-based apps. Search is super fast, going through your music super fast, sorting things and organizing things how you want is really quick. And the next thing I had to talk about is really the key feature in a lot of these. And it might not seem like it, but when you're using like a high-end DAC, this is something, because you want to get the most out of it, which is something known as exclusive mode. So both Amazon Music HD and Tidal offer this. Apple kind of does, but with some caveats. But basically what exclusive mode is especially when you're on Windows, it's going to bypass the Windows audio mixer and basically take over the DAC. So the app is playing directly into the DAC, which is giving you the music theoretically at the best quality with the least things going wrong, right? There's this whole thing with Rune and all this other craziness, but what it's supposed to do, if it's working properly, is if the sample rate changes per song, most songs are 44.1, some are 48, some are 96. Pop Smokes are 192 or some absurd sample rate sometimes, and your DAC is supposed to switch between this if it has access to these sample rates through exclusive mode. That's what it's supposed to do. Now, although Amazon Music HD has an exclusive mode, it does not work. You still have to manually switch the sample rate on your control panel to actually get this to work. It doesn't do it automatically, at least when I was testing it. Tidal is the only one between both OSs that does this perfectly. It switches the sample rate. Now, you might hear a stutter when you switch from songs with different sample rates. It's not always the smoothest playback, and scrubbing through songs isn't as great as not doing it. But it's the only one that does it cleanly, does it on Mac, does it on Windows. Now, in terms of Apple Music, you do kind of have this option, but only if you use an iPad or iOS device to play back your music. If you hook up your DAC to it and you use those apps, it'll do the sample rate switching, which is great, but I mean, no one wants to, buy an iPad unless you're me, just to make it switch that. It's a cool thing, but again, we're talking about the desktop experience here. Now, although Spotify doesn't have any of this, because of course it's not doing, lossless playback, it does have one really cool trick up its sleeve, which is a lot of these things, when you're using them, you're doing something else, you're playing games or you're editing. So unless you have keyboard shortcuts set up, it can be kind of annoying to have to hop over windows and adjust things. Cool thing with Spotify is because it's such a connected app, you can use your phone, you can use your watch, whatever, to control Spotify. So if you want to skip through songs or do anything, you just pop up your phone, adjust the volume. It's really neat as long as everything's on the same Wi-Fi network. It's a small little gimmick, but I actually use it quite a bit. All right, so who's the winner in the end? Well, it depends on what your priorities are with music. Now, we do have to talk about price in this equation. So of course, Apple Music, Amazon Music HD, and Spotify are all around the same price, about $10 depending on where you live. Tidal, to get the highest quality, you got to pay a bit more. In Singapore, it's a little bit cheaper. It's about $15 USD, but I think it's about $20 USD everywhere else. Plus, I think there's an even higher tier above that. So, of course, that leaves Tidal another odd one out. Now, I will say, again, it's based on your priorities in music, right? So if you constantly want, of course, your music, but you want new music and recommendations and things like that, Spotify is the best one to go with, especially if you're using it, of course, on your phone and stuff like that. I think the Spotify app is way better than all the other apps combined, especially that works with everything. Like even Apple's given up and you can use Siri to control Spotify. It's really just that good. Now, if you're, praise the Apple lords and everything like that, then Apple's probably the next best choice to go with, especially if you're willing to, buy an iPad to have your music switch automatically. If not, then I will say Tidal is the next best choice. If quality is the most important thing and you have the hardware, I think Tidal is just a bit better to go with. But if that exclusive mode functionality was fixed on Amazon Music HD, that would probably be the better choice because you're saving a bit of money and you're not dealing with the kind of funky MQA magic. So me personally, what do I use? I'm actually using both Tidal and Spotify. Like when there's an album that comes out that I really want to listen to in the best quality, I'll pump it in Tidal. Hopefully it has a master's option. If I'm just doing daily listening and podcast listening and stuff like that, then I'll use Spotify. But let me know what you think in the comments. What music app do you use to stream and how do you get your daily music? Do you just go around different bands and what's it called? Bandcamp? Is that still around? I don't know. But how do you find your music? How do you listen to it? Are you ripping from CDs? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Give a like and subscribe. Trying to put out more videos again. A little bit of an audio twist into this year so far, but catch you on the next one.